For 9 days, the search for 4-year-old Javeayah Harris had one goal: find her. On July 9th, that search ended, but not the way anyone hoped.
For 30 days, a 4-year-old girl was gone, and no one called for help. Then, on June 30th, her mother finally picked up the phone, not to report a death, but to report her as missing. Why that day? Investigators still haven't said. Welcome to True Crime Case. Late May, Aiken, South Carolina. Inside a modest home near Hillsborough Street and Ridgecrest Road, a 4-year-old girl named Javeayah Harris dies. There is no 911 call, no ambulance, no record of that day existing at all. Whatever happened inside that house stays inside that house, known only to the 2 adults responsible for her care, her father, Javeayah Harris, and her mother, Michelle Herring. What follows is 30 days of silence. Neighbors see nothing unusual, hear nothing unusual. A quiet residential pocket of Aiken County continues its routine a few hundred feet from a truth no one else has access to. Investigators would later determine that somewhere inside those 30 days, a decision was made, one that would only surface more than a month afterward, and one that would ultimately shape how difficult the rest of this case would become to prosecute. Then, June 30th, a phone rings at the Aiken County Dispatch Center. Michelle Herring is on the line. Her daughter, she says, has gone missing while playing outside. Not dead. Missing. A word investigators would later come to believe was chosen with full knowledge of what it concealed. Why that day, and not one of the 29 before it? What changed inside that house that made a missing persons report necessary now, when 30 days of silence had already passed without one? That question sits at the center of this case, and even now, prosecutors haven't offered a public answer. Within the hour, Aiken County is transformed. More than 200 first responders, FBI agents, the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, state law enforcement, helicopters cutting across a summer sky, pushed past 100 degrees by a punishing heat wave, search dogs moving through brush, drones scanning tree lines, thousands of acres searched by people who believed, in good faith, that a living child was still out there somewhere, frightened, but findable. A candlelight vigil draws the community together, neighbors holding on to the same hope investigators are chasing on the ground. One woman who attended told a local reporter the case had shaken the entire community in a way few others had. For 3 days, search crews cover ground they will later learn held nothing to find. Then, quietly, on July 3rd, the visible search begins to shrink. No public explanation given, just fewer boots on the ground, fewer helicopters overhead. A shift the public wouldn't fully understand until the following day, but one that, in hindsight, suggests investigators already knew something the rest of Aiken County didn't. July 4th, Sheriff Marty Sawyer stands before cameras and says the word no one wanted spoken. Homicide. Javeayah Harris, 23, and Michelle Herring, 22, Javeayah's own parents, are arrested and charged with homicide by child abuse. A judge denies them both bond, citing flight risk and danger to the community. The case that began as a search for a missing child is now, officially, something else entirely. But something is still missing. Not an answer this time. A body. If this story has already grabbed you, this is exactly the point where it's worth staying, because what investigators uncover next explains something even darker than the death itself. Drop a comment below with where you're watching this from. Cases like this reach further than any single newsroom, and it helps to know just how far this one has traveled. With 2 parents in custody, but no remains recovered, the investigation shifts direction entirely. Search teams move away from the neighborhoods near the family's home and toward water, reservoirs, creek beds, places a search built around finding a living child would never have gone, because those searches assume a person capable of walking, hiding, surviving. This search assumes something else. Crews spend days working an area near Stumpy Pond, where smaller waterways feed into a larger reservoir along the Fairfield County line, methodically narrowing a search area that had, until days earlier, spanned an entire county. July 9th. A podium. Sheriff Sawyer, flanked by staff, several wearing pink in honor of Javeayah's favorite color. His voice catches more than once as he speaks, and then, the update. A small number of human remains recovered from Cedar Creek Reservoir, an area near Stumpy Pond in neighboring Fairfield County. The remains are sent immediately to the State Law Enforcement Division, DNA testing confirms what everyone in that room feared. The remains are consistent with being the biological child of Harris and Herring. What's still unclear, even now, is how investigators narrowed their search to that specific reservoir, out of thousands of acres across 2 counties. The sheriff's office has described only an unnamed area of interest developed during the investigation. What led them there, and how long they'd suspected it before making the discovery, remains one of the details this case still hasn't answered publicly. Sawyer offers one more reason the search may never end the way anyone hoped it would. Forensic evidence, he says, points to extensive and deliberate efforts made to destroy and conceal evidence following Javeayah's death. Efforts that ensured she could never be fully recovered, using methods investigators have chosen not to fully disclose publicly. In 37 years of law enforcement, Sawyer says, he has never encountered anything like it. Sit with that for a second. A 4-year-old girl, a mother who called 911 and performed grief for cameras and investigators for over a week, knowing the truth the entire time. And parents who, according to the state, didn't just fail to protect their daughter, but took active, calculated steps afterward to make sure she could never fully come home. Sawyer said it plainly. He had hoped and prayed to find her body, but the evidence made that simply impossible now. If this case has left you with a mix of anger and heartbreak, you're not alone in that. It's exactly why cases like this deserve careful, factual coverage instead of speculation. And it's a responsibility this channel takes seriously with every true crime documentary we put together. Advocates who work directly with families in Aiken County have pointed to this case as a reminder of how difficult it can be to see abuse happening inside a home from the outside, and how important community resources remain for children who can't yet advocate for themselves. As a result of what investigators found, both Harris and Herring now face an additional charge each: destruction and desecration of human remains, layered on top of the original homicide by child abuse charges. Herring also faces a separate charge for filing a false police report, the same report that launched a 9-day search for a girl who had already been gone for a month. Both parents have since appeared separately in court. Harris confirmed he already has legal representation. Herring was found likely to qualify for a court-appointed public defender. In both cases, the judge cited the totality of the circumstances in denying bond, finding each of them a flight risk and a danger to the community. Neither has entered a plea. Further court appearances are scheduled for late August, with additional dates set for late October. No trial date has been made public, and legal analysts following the case note that prosecuting a homicide without a complete body is rare, and will likely lean heavily on the confessions and forensic evidence investigators have already gathered. Here's what makes this update different from everything that came before it. Up until July 9th, this was a story about a missing child, then a story about 2 parents accused of causing her death. Now it's also a story about what people are capable of doing after the fact, when the priority shifts from concealing a death to making sure that death can never be fully proven, measured, or laid to rest in the way a grieving community needs it to be. There's one more detail sitting quietly underneath this entire case, one that hasn't been resolved publicly. During her original 911 call, Herring told dispatchers she was 39 weeks pregnant. No official update has been released about that child's status since her mother's arrest. It's an unanswered question that continues to circulate locally, and one this channel will continue to track as more information becomes public. Sheriff Sawyer closed his July 9th update the way he opened it, with visible weight in his voice. The investigation isn't over, he said. Investigators will continue pursuing every lead, working with the solicitor's office to build a case for whatever justice can look like now, given what can and cannot be recovered. He asked the public to keep the extended family in their thoughts, along with the officers and agencies who spent 9 days searching for a little girl, only to learn that the search itself may never be complete. If you've been with this story since it began, thank you for staying with it through what has become one of the hardest cases this channel has covered. If you're new here, go back and watch how this started, because understanding the full timeline is part of understanding exactly how far 2 people went to hide the truth from everyone around them. Before you go, subscribe and turn on notifications so you're not waiting on anyone else to tell you what happens at that August court date. We want to leave you with the same question that lingered in that room on July 9th, the same question a lot of people in that Aiken County community carried out with them. When someone goes to those lengths to make sure a child can never be fully found, what does justice even look like for a case like that? Let us know what you think in the comments below. We read every one of them.